Councilperson Modesto. Councilperson Clem. Councilperson Williams.
Yes.
Councilperson Feckety.
Yes.
Councilperson Zilli.
Here.
Councilperson Aprisco. Present. Councilperson Lynch.
Here.
Pastor Hayden of City Point, come up and lead us in a prayer, please. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you. Let's pray. Dear God, we thank you so much for this city that you've placed us in. And Lord, your word instructs us that we are to pray for the peace of our city. And so, Lord, we come together and we first cry out for your peace to reign over this city. Lord, I thank you for each one of these council members, for our mayor, for each civil servant in this community who are giving their lives day after day after day. Lord, I ask your protection over them. I ask your wisdom for them. And I ask, God, that you would take preeminence in this city. Lord, I pray that in this meeting you would lead them and give them great insight and knowledge and wisdom for the decisions they will make. Lord, in the transitions that our city is facing, I pray, oh God, for a spirit of cooperation and unity to flood over this city, that we could walk together into the plans and purposes that you have for us. And we ask this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Councilperson Aprisco, will you please lead us in pledge?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Minutes from the previous meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the November 12th meeting. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you all. We have a very special night tonight. We have three gentlemen that are here. If Troy, if you could come up for us, please. Under the communications, correspondence, and announcements from the mayor. Before I do that, I did not want to forget something. Our Christmas festival this Saturday from 2 to 5. Tree lighting at the police station, and then over to Founders Square for the countdown of the Founders Square lighting as well. We do want to thank U.S. Steel for sponsoring the Christmas festival lights this year. They've paid the whole bill, which is a wonderful thing, and we thank them for that. 2 to 5 at the starting off at the police station, and then moving on over to Founders Square around 4:30. So, Chief, you have something to talk about tonight, I think.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
Thank you. As you've heard me in the past, keep you updated on the hiring process. We completed that recently with the merit board interviews. 5 people made the list. We're hiring 3. They started yesterday, and kind of because of the significance of the hiring, I thought it would be appropriate to do it here at the council. You've all been a part of this. You oversee the departments, the budget, so it's important that we share this with the community. So the first person we're swearing in is Jesus Campos. He's 27 years old. He's from Portage and was with an officer with the Indiana University Northwest Police Department. So Jesus.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and the laws
and the laws
of the United States of America,
of the United States of America,
the Constitution and the laws of the State of Indiana,
the Constitution and the laws of the State of Indiana,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and I will faithfully and impartially
execute the duties of my office
execute the duties of my office
as a member of the Portage Police Department
of a member of the Portage Police Department
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
and according to the law,
and according to the law.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
All right, the next gentleman that we were hiring is Eric Rosacci. He's 23 years old, from Chesterton, and he formerly worked at the Porter County Jail. Eric?
Ken, to us old guys, these guys are babies. No, 23. I don't even remember that. Congratulations. Thanks, sir. I, Eric Rosacci,
Eric Versace,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
support the Constitution
and the laws of the United States of America,
and the laws of the United States of America,
the Constitution and the laws of the state of Indiana,
the Constitution and the laws of the state of Indiana.
and that I will faithfully and impartially
I will faithfully and impartially
execute the duties of my office
execute the duties of my office
as a member of the Portage Police Department
as a member of the Portage Police Department
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
and according to the law.
and according to the law.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, sir.
All right, and the third gentleman we're hiring tonight is Demario Hawthorne. He's 25 years old. He's from Portage. He worked at Arsenal Middle in Burns Harbor and is a member of the Army Reserves. Demario, come on up.
I, Demario Hawthorne,
I, Mario Hawthorne,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and the laws of the United States of America,
and the laws of the United States of America,
the Constitution and the laws of the state of Indiana,
the Constitution and the laws of the state of Indiana,
and that I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
and impartially execute the duties
and impartially execute the duties
of my office
of my office
as a member of the Portage Police Department
as a member of the Portage Police Department
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
and according to the law.
and according to the law.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, sir.
The moment is not lost on us. Kind of getting a little choked up about this, but Portage has not had an African American full-time officer ever. Demario's brother, we brought him on as a reserve back in 2014. There's not been a lot of African American candidates, and we want them to be representative of our community. And I think you should see this tonight. We definitely are. So we're very proud of this moment.
Nice job. Good luck.
That's the way all meetings ought to start. That's wonderful. Again, welcome aboard. If we could have one more round of applause for our three new police officers. All righty. One more announcement tonight. Tonight will be the last city council meeting for Councilperson Prisco. If that's what he chooses. We'll see what he does next 4 years. But as of tonight, we'd like to thank Councilperson Prisco for his many, many years of service to our community. And it's been spirited as well as good-hearted. So we appreciate everything you've done for our city.
Totally appreciate it. Absolutely.
And then we have another gentleman, Mr. William Feckety, has served our community for over 30 years in one capacity or another. And on March 2nd, he stepped into a role that hadn't been done too much in the city in the past, and you've done a marvelous job, Bill, looking out for the 4th District and for our entire city. And thank you for all of your hard work and your dedication to our city as well. All righty, receptions and petitions and memorials. I don't believe we have any. Clerk Treasurer's report.
None.
Report of city officials. Barb, you're usually last, but you're first.
And today's the day I really don't have a lot to say.
Well, that's okay.
But that's okay. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Barb.
So far, the marina's officially closed. I think everybody knows that. I did fill out the 13-page checklist with the Indiana Department of Environmental Management to update our clean marina status for 2020. And we also have to send a letter with that, a letter of our marina certification. It's called a renewal letter for the status of clean marina. The docks are officially closed. Okay, I'm a little taller than the normal. The docks are officially closed. The launch ramp and the fishing pier do remain open. The launch ramps, they stay open as weather allows. We haven't had any ice yet, so we're hoping that we have a mild winter this year. We do see a lot of camouflage duck boats on the waterway during the winter months. People like to duck hunt. I never realized that was legal until a couple of years ago. I thought that they were hunting illegally, so I called the DNR several times, and they informed me that they can hunt anywhere. They can hunt anywhere on the waterway. And we do have people fishing off the fishing pier as long as the waterway doesn't freeze. But right now the waterway is flowing and there is no freeze on the lake, so everything is good. And there's just one reminder that our bathrooms are closed during the winter. They're winterized, so the porta potties do remain open. The office is open 5 days a week from 9 until 4, closed on the weekends for the winter months. And that's really all I have to say. Any questions?
Thanks, Barb.
I actually do have a question about hunting for duck on the waterway. Are they allowed to fire a weapon in the city limits though?
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. They can.
Because I know you can't hunt in the city limits, so.
Well, with the Lake Michigan,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was thinking since it's the waterway.
it's a high water mark, I guess.
Yeah.
You're asking on behalf of your father?
I'm not, but I was just curious.
Good one, Ken.
That's a good one.
Sure he has access to that law, too, brother.
Anything else?
That's
Anything
good.
else?
Anything else? Anybody?
Thanks, Barb.
Thank you,
Okay.
Barb.
Thanks,
Thank
Good
you.
job. Thank you. Chief Tim?
All right, good evening, everyone. I thought I had a little bit tonight, so you already have the reports on your desk there in front of you for the month of November. We did 397 calls, so it's a little over 13 calls a day. Several structure fires between all of those, a couple of mutual aid calls to surrounding communities. So pretty normal month. I did want to take this time to thank everybody for their support of our arson investigation dog, Bosco. We did have an event a couple Saturdays ago. I think we had about somewhere between 75 and 100 people. Received lots of donations of blankets and food and treats and things like that for the Porter County Animal Shelter. So again, that was very appreciated. For the ones that were there, I think it's pretty remarkable to see how well Bosco is actually doing with his prognosis being so poor. So we're hoping that he's going to beat the odds a little bit and hang in there for quite a while. So he's a remarkable dog, and he's been a real benefit to the fire department and to several counties in Northwest Indiana. So again, thank you for that, everybody. We were also very pleased and honored to have Officer Peel there with his canine as well. The Protecting Canine Heroes presented his dog with a vest, so we were pleased that he was able to make that and take care of that. So thank you for allowing him to be there. Appreciate that. We're going to have Shop with a Firefighter this year like we do every year. That's going to take place on December 19th. It looks like we're going to have somewhere between 12 and 15 children that we're going to take out. We've been doing this for probably 30 years. We do this in part with Meyer. They have, ever since moving into the city of Portage, they have graciously helped us with a substantial donation and a discount for us to be able to go there and take the kids shopping every year. So it's a remarkable thing to see if you've never done that before. A lot of times the kids will buy a lot of things for their parents and siblings, and their list is last sometimes. So it's a pretty cool thing to see. So we'll be doing that on December 19th. We will be posting some Christmas and holiday safety tips on our Facebook page tomorrow. So we encourage everybody to go ahead and take a look at that. One thing in particular is there will be a Christmas tree recipe there. It's basically a recipe to make the water so that the tree absorbs as much water as possible and it stays as live as possible so it doesn't dry out. So we'll have that posted there. I've used it myself for a live tree in my house and it works fantastic. So I did want to just touch on a couple things that there are about 200 to 300 Christmas tree fires in this country every year, averaging about 6 to 8 deaths every year, and about 20 or so civilians receive very significant burns from those incidents. And it comes out to about $18 million in damages every year. So don't take the tree lightly. Make sure it stays watered and protect it as much as possible. So we want everybody to have a good Christmas, a good holiday, and be safe. So look for all that on our Facebook page tomorrow, and have any questions, please feel free to give us a call. And that's all I have if you have questions for me.
Does the fire department take donations for the Christmas shop with the?
Yes, we do. Yeah,
Is that on your-
yeah, we can take we'll take a donation, and or sometimes we've had some people sponsor kids and actually go with us when we take the kids shopping. So, but yeah, you can contact our office and we'll gladly accept that. So, any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Chief Williams. Please, Chief Williams, thank you. And again, great selection process. Thank you to the merit board as well as the chief and his staff for a great evening tonight with three great additions to our police department.
Thank you. And we did reach out to the merit board. Most of them were unable to attend, but I definitely appreciate their efforts.
Yes.
Do have a number of things to cover tonight. We received a check. Well, it's through the town of Chesterton, but their lieutenant over there maintains the grants for this area, like the DUI grant, OPO, and the stop arm violation. So our officers work the grants, we pay out the overtime, and then we reimburse from the the state. Sometimes that process takes a little bit of time. So we received a check for $11,814.70. So that's really good. We also received reimbursement for providing security during the USS Indianapolis visit to the tune of $14,293.44. We received a $1,600 grant from Enbridge for the purchase of 12 trauma kits to issue to our patrol officers. We have at least 6 of them already out there, so just an extra equipment to carry. You're on scene. I don't know if you saw the news recently. We've had a couple shootings at schools in Wisconsin, so being able to tend to any wounded right away with some serious injuries, we wanted to make sure we were able to do that prior to fire getting there. This might have got mentioned last month, but this goes hand in hand with the trauma kits. We reached out to Texas State University, the Advanced Law Enforcement Rapid Response Training Group. They offer free grant training, or free training through grants, so that for the tune of $14,000, we were the recipient of a 2-day school that's in the middle of this month, the Active Attack Integrated Response course, and we're doing it with other agencies. So, Rob, who are some of the other agencies?
At this point, we're looking at Maryville, Chesterton, ourselves, Nikki, maybe one or two more of us.
Portage Fire and dispatchers. So it's getting all the different entities to work together. We contacted the MAC Center out in Valpo. They've agreed to let us use their facilities. So other than if an officer is, on overtime to attend the training, it's not costing us anything. But the class itself was worth $14,000. Let's see. Our calls for service for November were 2,715, and we had 247 reports taken. Obviously, there were some serious incidents that happened. I just briefly touch on them unless you have any questions, but I want to commend the detectives and the death of our young lady from Portage, Detective Huberger, Nicole Huberger, Kurt Biggs, Phil Garzella, Captain Joe Reynolds. The swiftness and the professionalism and the commitment to get that solved quickly, commendable. And then obviously we had the shooting at a local establishment, and the patrol officers that night that responded, they had to work through that chaotic scene, and them themselves not be injured. Again, I wanted to commend the midnight units for doing that. We received our new police vehicles last few days, 5 Dodge Chargers, 5 Dodge Durangos, 1 Dodge Charger. This is going to allow us to pull out the 2010 Chevy Impalas from active daily patrol. We might keep 1 or 2 around for the reserves, but they won't be beaten to death like they had been. And again, those cars were getting old. We received our new duty handguns. I'd like to thank Captain Maynard, the range instructors, Lieutenant Mokel, Steve McGraw, and who else? I forget. Lou Stanko. And Assistant Chief Uslak. We've been talking about this for about 3.5 years. And for the cost of about $15,000, we were able to switch firearms. And the way this is significant is we were carrying the 6-hour 40 caliber pistols. Now we have a 9mm. It allows the officers to carry a little bit more ammo, but also those that were probably average shots can shoot better with this particular firearm. The recoil is not as big. It's a nice standard firearm, and it's going to save us about $3,000 a year in ammo cost. So definitely a return there. 2 more things. Our Cops for Kids is our shopping excursion. I know the fire department's doing it. Rob, do you have the date on that?
Not yet, sir.
Okay. That'll be sometime this month, and Joe Mokel usually runs that, and he reaches out to the schools to get names of disadvantaged kids that we could help. Lastly, I'd like to thank Josh Good in review of some of our Comcast bills, trying to combine some of these things and find out where all that money is going. It was discovered that there was a Comcast internet line at the police department that was still being paid on that had never been used. It belonged to the university center, so we had realized it wasn't ours. Josh contacted Comcast. They are going to cut us a check and retro pay us back from 2015 for the tune of about $11,500. So, great. Yeah, not something we were really aware of, but after you started combing through the bills, a little tedious. I don't think Comcast has the best billing system. So kudos to Josh.
What was that amount again?
Around $11,000 approximately. So a lot of good things happening. Can I answer anything for anybody? Okay, thank you.
Good job, Chief. Thank you. Randy Reeder, Street Department.
Well, we're still in leaf season. Right now we picked up about 294 loads of leaves and hauled them to US 12 up there. We're working 12 hours or 10-hour days, 5 days a week, and then we're also working Saturdays. Just be aware of our leaf policy. We're finding some residents are still taking twigs and leaves and putting them in one pile. Like to keep those separate, and also try and keep those leaves at the edge of your property, not in the street. It's really important that we do that, because when those leaves sit in the gutter and it rains and it's moist, it breaks those leaves down faster, and they're harder to pick up. So just be aware of that policy. As weather permits, we're going to continue to pick up leaves. Last month we had 1 winter event, and then last week we had windstorms that played havoc throughout the city, but we're through that. Other than that, we're in bulk week. Our recycling right now, we're at 20%. we've taken about almost 3,000 tons through recycling. So altogether, we've hauled about 12,184 tons of debris from the black lid and the green lid toters, and that comes out to about a 20% duration rate there. So I don't have anything else on as a report. So if anyone's got any questions, we are running a patch crew tomorrow. So if you have any type of potholes that are in your areas or anything, please email those as soon as possible. So we've got a number on a list, so we'll be taking care of those things tomorrow.
Do you know if Austin Hills is on that list, Randy, for, I can't remember the street, it's maybe Ava or it's something
could
we
look
talked
on it.
about. Could you check? And
Yes, I
I'll
will.
follow up with
Ava?
you tomorrow.
Yeah, shoot me an email just to
Okay.
remind me,
Okay,
and I'll check onto that. So,
thank you.
anything else?
Anyone else have anything for Randy?
Okay.
Thanks, Randy.
Good job, Randy. Thank
All right,
you.
Thank you. Pray for the Nelson family. So
Say
just
again?
keep
Oh,
the Nelson family
yes.
in your prayers and
Yes.
thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. I think everyone else is taking vacation, I believe. So, reports from standing committees.
I have no update from the Budget Committee,
Thank you, sir.
Mayor.
Anyone else? All righty. Introduction of ordinances. A, 2020 elected official salary vetoed.
Scott, would you please take that?
Yeah. We had this is the second reading of the 2020 elected officials' salaries that was vetoed. And the veto stemmed from the fact that based on the salaries that were presented for mayor at $83,466.23, clerk treasurer $78,178.65, and common council members $17,142.86. Let the record reflect that this salary ordinance for elected officials has been read in its entirety.
Just to correct the record, it's not a second reading.
Yeah.
It's a reading to, if you choose to, overturn the veto.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ken.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to overturn the veto.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just want to make it clear that I believe the council's intent was to leave the salaries for these positions at the same amount that it was for 2019. It was never the intent of the Budget Committee to raise salaries for the mayor, the clerk treasurer, or the common council members. Our intent, due to the budget constraints, was to keep those salaries the same in 2020 as they were for 2019. And I want to make sure that's the intent of the motion.
So,
So, from a legal perspective, if you don't override the veto, 2019 salaries remain the same by
Yeah.
default. So, if that's what you want to do, that's what I would recommend.
so I do have a few questions. I looked at the budget. The budget specifically for the council line item is 120,000. So that's 17,142.
Right, and I think that it actually should have been closer to 116,000, whatever that number is,
Yeah.
to reflect what the salaries currently are for 2019.
So the ordinance came from where? Where did the ordinance come from? The mayor's office?
That's a good question. I'm not sure,
Okay.
Councilman Zilli. Again, I just wanted to emphasize that I believe it was the original intent, and always was the intent, of the Budget Committee to keep the salaries the same. So I would recommend that we follow the advice of our council attorney and take no action on this ordinance. Therefore, it will revert back to, based on state statute, back to what the salaries were for 2019.
So, if you wish to do that,
I'll withdraw my second.
And I'll do the same thing. I'll take my motion back.
All right, thank you.
What's the next?
The ordinance is vetoed.
Okay, all righty. Second reading, truck weights.
Never got nothing back from any of the members up here from the city council. Was waiting on Colin to get back to me and anyone else. It didn't happen. I would just wait till next month. Just
Yeah,
till
let's wait till next month. We'll have the new council will be in place. We'll have an ordinance meeting and we'll get this figured out with the next council.
Just keep it on the table till next month.
So do you have a motion to table?
I'm making a motion to table it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
2020 employee salaries.
Colin, would you take that, please?
Sure.
Ordinance number 19 an ordinance establishing the amount of salaries and compensations to be paid to all appointed employees and officers of the city of Portage, Porter County, Indiana for the year 2020, be it and it is hereby ordained by the Common Council of the city of Portage, Porter County, Indiana as follows. Let the record reflect this has been read in full, and I'd like to make a motion to table to address this at the January meeting with the new city council.
And would you please add to your motion, and I'll second it, that whatever salary ordinance is passed, if it is indeed passed at our next meeting, that it'll be retroactive back to 1 January 2020?
Yeah, I think the ordinance we'll word it to say that, right, Ken?
Yeah, the ordinance that would be passed in January would have that language.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to table this to the January meeting, and that the ordinance will be retroactive January 1st once passed.
I'll second that motion.
So I do have a question. Which ordinance are you tabling? The one that was put in Dropbox today at 11:15, or the ordinance that was sent from the mayor's office to the council president?
Yeah, both ordinances, yeah. We're not taking action on either. Yeah, the most up-to-date one that you emailed would be the one that we're reading, so.
To be clear, just because there's two out there, we should table it.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to table 19- that was sent by the mayor and 19- that's in Dropbox.
And I'll second that motion.
Again, that was sent to the council president on November 18th to distribute to the other council members. There was no response. So
Well,
it's a,
if I can, Mr. Mayor,
I have the floor, I'm sorry. Just pretty disheartening that we can't get a salary ordinance approved. We were told by the clerk treasurer that November 1st it was due. Now we're in December, getting ready to go into January.
they're not due November 1st. The budget's due.
Well, I'm just telling you what was, it's on record, so. I would think it would be done by the end of the year. Again, we're gonna pass up Santa Claus with this. And I would like to have our
Well, I think
salary
the new
order-
council and the new
I still
mayor
have-
should be
I still have the
deciding
floor, Councilman Slay, if you would have respect, please. I would expect the salary ordinance that is turned over to the council previous to the November meeting and previous to this December meeting to be up for a vote tonight. It's very disheartening that we cannot let our employees know what they'll get paid January 1.
Well, if I can, Mr. Mayor, I think the new council, the new mayor, will have different priorities. And why would we pass a salary ordinance that is then going to end up changing in January? There's absolutely no need.
It wouldn't change in January. Why would it be able to change in
Well,
January
you
once we pass?
you won't be mayor. It can change any time that the mayor brings it forward to the city council. So, I mean, if the mayor-elect is going to make changes, it just makes sense to do this at the January meeting. The first pay period will come after that meeting. Everybody will receive their pay back to January 1st, as the ordinance states. So I don't see the need to pass this before the new mayor is in place.
It's important to note as well that all employees subject to union contracts will be paid January 1,
Yes.
regardless of the salary.
Well, and regardless of that, I mean, the first pay period is not going to come until after the first council meeting. So anybody will be paid what the new ordinance is put in place at the January meeting.
And that's absolutely true. No one's going to lose any money. So we just need some time to review this. I think it's in the best interest of the budget for the city. So I would call the question, Mr. Mayor. and ask for a vote.
Just for historical record, when Mayor Mileta turned over the mayor's office to Mayor-elect Olson, the salary ordinance was passed under the previous mayor. Same thing under Mayor Blazquez to Mayor Snyder, and the same thing from Mr. Olson to Mayor Blazquez. So just want to let that historical data to be out there for, this would be a first time in history that this has been done, so.
I don't understand.
I don't think that's
It doesn't
true,
matter.
Mr. Mayor.
Call for the question, please. Okay. It's a simple one.
We have a motion and a second for tabling both ordinances. Please call the roll.
Councilperson Williams?
Yes.
Councilperson Feggity?
Yes.
Councilperson Zilli?
Yes.
Councilperson Prisco?
Yes.
Councilperson Lynch?
Yes.
First, excuse me, Mark?
Nothing.
First reading, 2020 tax anticipation warrants.
Mark, would you take that, please?
Tax anticipation warrants, Indiana Bond Bank's 2020 Advanced Funding Program, an ordinance, an ordinance authorizing the City of Portage, Indiana to make temporary loans to meet current running expenses for the use of cumulative capital development fund, the issuance CLPD fund, the debt service fund, the employee medical benefits fund, the general fund, the motor vehicle fund, and the parks and recreation fund of the issuer in anticipation of and not in excess of current taxes levied in the year 2019 and collectible in the year 2020, authorizing the issuance of temporary loan tax anticipation warrants to evidence such loans and sale of such warrants to the Indiana Bond Bank, and appropriating and pledging the taxes to be received in such funds to punctual payment of such warrants, including the interest thereon. Let the record show this ordinance was read in its entirety. Motion to suspend.
Second.
Monty, that was first reading. Do we have to do? That was first reading. Do we have to have?
Which is what Mark made, and I second.
We have a motion and a suspension. Please call the roll.
Councilperson Feggity?
Yes.
Councilperson Zilli?
Yes.
Councilperson Prisco?
Yes.
Councilperson Lynch?
Yes.
Councilperson Williams?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt. Any discussion?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to ask Chris, would you explain that, please, so that the public can understand?
Sure. So this is our annual borrowing for cash flow purposes. So the total amount to be borrowed is just shy of 11 million. That's a change from 2019. 2019 borrowing was just around 6 million. So obviously it's a bigger number for 2020. This is based on projections for 2020 on what the city will need month by month to operate, and then we receive money from the bond bank to see us through those months until we get our tax draws in June and December. This money will be repaid before the end of calendar year 2020. So it's not long-term debt.
So question, have we had any indication from the bond bank if these will be the final amounts or?
Yes, the numbers in there are the final amounts. Correct.
So they did almost give us the 11.1 million.
Correct.
We have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? All righty. Introduction of resolutions, 2020 assessments for Maria Shores.
Scott, would you take that?
Yes. Resolution approving assessment roll and list of assessments of the City of Portage Marina Shores Special Improvement District. Whereas the Marina Shores Special Improvement District has been established within the City of Portage, and whereas Municap, Inc. prepared its annual assessment report and amendment of the assessment roll for imposition of assessments in 2019 and collection in 2020. Let the record reflect that this resolution has been read in its entirety.
Ken, could you kind of explain? Okay.
This is our annual assessment that the council must adopt. It's even though the Marina Shores bond is a responsibility of just the property taxpayers within Marina Shores, the council, because it's the pass-through entity, must approve the assessments each year. It's just a function of the bond structure.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussions or questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Various transfer number 6. I believe that's going to be a public hearing. Clerk Treasurer, would you like to explain? Do I have to open a public hearing first?
And someone needs to read it.
Yeah. Probably need to read it.
Yes.
Right.
Mark, would you read that, please?
Resolution 19 whereas certain extraordinary emergencies have developed since the adoption of the existing 2019 annual budget, so that it is now necessary to appropriate more money than was appropriated in the 2019 annual budget. Due to the length of this, with everything on it, I make a motion to adopt. Let the record reflect. You read it in its entirety.
I'll second that.
Clerk Treasurer, do you want to?
Sure. So this is one of 3 transfer/appropriation resolutions we'll be dealing with tonight. This one deals with, and the reason it's a public hearing is it deals with inter-department transfers from one department to another. And this essentially just takes any leftover money in any department budget, and we kind of cobble it together to address budget deficits within the general fund. And so this will address the primary police and fire salaries, planning salaries, and then there's a Board of Works miscellaneous, and that's going to be used just as a catch-all. There's some difficulty with not having a second meeting in December, and you have 2 Board of Works meetings coming up, so we don't know what bills are going to come in through at the end of the month. So we kind of create this catch-all category that can pay these as many bills as possible so that there's as few bills left over for 2020 as possible.
So we're moving around $245,759.32.
Correct.
Do I have the right one? Okay. So I'd like to open the public hearing. Anybody here to speak for? Anyone here to speak against? Seeing none. Public hearing closed. Please call the roll.
Councilperson Zilli?
Yes.
Councilperson Frisco?
Yes.
Councilperson Lynch?
Yes.
Councilperson Williams?
Yes.
Councilperson Feckett?
Yes.
Various transfer number 7.
Colin, would you take it?
Sure. Resolution number 19 whereas certain extraordinary emergencies have developed since the adoption of the existing 2019 annual budget, so that it is now necessary to appropriate more money than was appropriated in the 2019 annual budget. Let the record reflect this has been read in its entirety. Motion to adopt.
Second.
This one is obviously much smaller, just moves a couple, just clears up a couple negative line items within departments, so it doesn't require inter-department transfers.
And that's Port Authority and Marina.
Correct.
Okay. So it's a total of $1,653.47 from Port Authority, and $1,722.29 from Marina Ops. It gets moved to channel maintenance and building repairs, Port Authority and Marina Ops. We have a motion and a second to adopt.
Yeah, it was.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All righty. Additional appropriation number 4.
Whereas it has been determined that it is now necessary to appropriate more money than was originally appropriated in the annual budget. Now therefore, Section 1, be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Portage, Porter County, Indiana, that for the expenses of said municipal corporation, the following additional sums of money are hereby appropriated in order set apart out of the several funds or fund herein named, and for the purposes herein specified, subject to the laws governing the same. Let the record show this has been read in its entirety.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt. I'm going to open the public hearing. Anyone here to speak for? Anyone here to speak against? Close of the public hearing. Please. Yeah, go ahead.
This is the resolution we discussed last month, because we talked about doing the notice to taxpayers. This will appropriate all remaining cash available, and this is done to try to meet the obligations of the city through the end of 2019. So it's, it'll appropriate $1 million, $1,005,000 out of cable TV, $800,000 out of local road and street, $457,000 out of riverboat fund, and then $10,000 out of park impact fee, and that's actually for costs related to their impact fee study.
So on the three, the cable TV, LRNS, and riverboat, that's wiping out our cash reserves.
Yeah, that takes those down to zero, correct?
So for 2020, we will not have a cash reserve.
Well, for 2020, you'll be in, Carl has projected you're ending the 2019 in the hole. So you won't have cash reserve, you'll actually be, I think he estimates, and Scott can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was just under 1.1 million is what the general fund was in the hole, but then these are zeroed out.
That number is correct.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Yeah, so have we heard, has the budget committee been able to work with DLGF on the budget cuts that they requested for 2020 to spread that out?
We have not met to specifically address that. We wanted to involve the new council members in that decision-making process.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Councilperson Prisco?
Yes.
Councilperson Lynch?
Yes.
Councilperson Williams?
Yes.
Councilperson Feckney?
Yes.
And Councilperson Zoe?
Yes.
Unfinished business? New business? Notice to taxpayers? Having none. Receptions and remonstrances, public input, and any other business? This is Mr. Elwood.
I just want to thank Mr. Prisco for his service to the city. Mark's been a friend of mine since probably 1994. I think he served.
Probably 1987 or 88.
I was in high school, man. He served, I believe, 5 terms. Decided to run in a district-wide race, Mr. Williams' current district, and lost to your predecessor, but then came back and ran at large again and won, I believe, twice at large. So as a friend, I'm very proud of your service. I appreciate your friendship. I'm not sure that any elected official in the city's history has had more of a lengthy and impactful impact. So thank you.
Thank you. Just like to make a couple comments, you know. Liz isn't here. I think Liz served 24 years. Pat Clem's not here, but I appreciate their service. Scott, Colin, thank you. You guys have done an excellent job the past 4 years, okay? Bill Feckney, we go back to 1990 or 92, I think, when you got elected in the 4th District. I think you beat Cordy Wilson back then, if I'm not mistaken. So we go back, and I wish you the best. John, I wish you the best, too. You had a rough year taking us over as a mayor. Hasn't been easy. I know with the election process, everything went back and forth, but I still respect the work you've done.
Thank you.
Chris. Ken, you're lucky to have Chris working for you, because he's an attorney that's really good with numbers. You know what I'm saying? And really, you've done a great job, outstanding job. I'm very proud of you. You'll do well. Kenny, you've been with me a lot of years. Thanks.
I'd like to
Really,
add,
what I'd like to do,
if I may.
I'd just like to thank,
sorry.
over the years, all the city staff, the employees. They're the true people of Portage. They're the people that make things work day in and day out. And there's a lot of times, you know, when you're on the council where you don't really spend a lot of time with those people, but they're the ones. And thank you. And as I end, it's been a long time, you know, long years. Thank my wife, my family, and I wish the mayor-elect, who's giving me cough drops, but I appreciate it, and I know you'll do an excellent job in guiding our city. Best of luck. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may add,
Yes.
I've leaned on Mark a lot. The one thing I respect about him is he's very honest. He's extremely forthright. I continually rely on his advice and expertise, and I will continue to do that. And I have a whole lot of respect for that man and the commitment and time he gave to this city. And I personally thank him very much for his advice, his recommendation, and his support. Thank you very much.
And I want to echo what Scott said, Mark. I mean, for 4 years, Scott and I came into this. We were the 2 new council members 4 years ago, and we were thrown in the fire right away. And you've been a good mentor, and you've always been honest with us. You've always been forthright, and you've made a lot of hard decisions in those 3 years when you were council president. There were a lot of hard times. So thank you for your support, for your service. Portage thanks you.
Well, thank you very much. I just look forward to the new council taking over, and it's sort of a break for me, too. So if you got any questions, feel free to call me, but I'm sure everyone will do fine.
We'll want to see you in the audience.
Yeah.
You can go up and make some public comment.
All right.
Mark, I've
Give
loved
us a hard
being
time.
sitting here beside you and us bantering back and forth and me feeding you tons of cough drops.
Thank
And you have been a great, great person on this council. I have great respect for you. And I know you got very vocal at times, but your heart was always in everything you said. Your heart was always for our city, and it always will be. So thank you for everything you've done for this city.
You're welcome. Thanks.
And I'd also like to add, Chris Stidham, our clerk treasurer, over the last, 4 years, worked very closely with him, but particularly the last 6-7 months, as a budget chair, I have constantly relied on Chris's expertise and input, and it's been very invaluable. And without that input, without that expertise, it would have been difficult for us to make some of the recommendations that we had to make as a budget committee. So Chris, I'm indebted to your efforts, your commitment, and your contributions. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Scott, and it's been good working with all of you. That's the thing I'll miss the most, is being able to work closely with all of you and help lead the city. And I'll miss Scott, or Mark, you hit it on the head when you said it's the city employees that do it. They predate us, and they'll be here after us, and they're the ones that really do it all. And I wouldn't be able to do any of it without the girls in my office, so they're the ones that deserve all the praise. So but I'll miss you guys, and best of luck, and I know it'll be in good hands.
And Chris, I know you've been very helpful in helping Nina get her sea legs going, and I know that you'll stay there with her.
Absolutely.
And answer any questions, and I know she appreciates that. So I know she's not here, but thank you for all you're doing to help her out.
Of course.
Thank you.
And I want to thank Mr. Feckety for his years of service and then for stepping up and joining us for these past.
We go back to high school, right?
We do. I was on a committee with Mr. Feckety when I was in high school. I think you were a little far removed from high school at the time. But, I've known Mr. Feckety. Let's see, how long ago was that? That was 8 years ago. About 8 years ago, and I was
2014.
Yeah, and I was happy to get a chance to serve with you on the city council and see your commitment these past 8 months.
We both served on the same committee.
We did. So I want to thank you for your years of service, for stepping up and taking on the seat for these past 8 months.
It's hard for me to sit here and not have nothing to say, but I have great pride in this city. I lived here for 38 years, and then we moved away for 2 years, came back home. And we've been back now, we're in our 3rd year of being back, so we're pushing 41 years. And what was so great about being here and being given the privilege to serve, to reach out, to when I was on the school board for 12 years. And I love those kids, I love it, but and like Mark says, we go way back on city council and the days of '92 when I first decided to run. And but over the years, it's just been great. It's a great city. Everything gets out of whack once in a while, but it's all about getting it back online and heading in the right direction. And all I can say is thank you to everyone, those of you that supported me over the years. And I want to wish the new city government, council, mayor, the best. I will be around, but I promise you I'll be standing at that podium. I hope not too often, but there's not some things I'm not going to let you forget about, like Willow Creek Road. It's still on my mind, and it'll stay on it until I see something happening. But again, just thank you to everyone. And you know, as I look out over this audience too, there's so many of you that you're here at every meeting. And that's important too, that this city government gets the support that we get from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bill.
I would just like to say something. I know there's two people at this table that have gone back and forth, and that's John and myself. And we have tried to be civil. We have our heart in this city. John has it as much as I do. And we started out the first of the year with a different mayor, and then I became the mayor for 2 weeks, and then John and I worked together to get him transitioned over to this spot, and now he's working with me. And that's what this city is really wanting to see happen here. The people work together for the good of our city. And I have to say, John, thank you very much for all the partnerships that we've had over the last few months. It's been great. And I hope you'll continue to be a part of the city and participate in things, because I know your heart is here.
Well, thank you very much for that. Before I say some kumbayas, I need to do one thing. I forgot. 2 street lights on County Line Road on the east side. I'm sorry. Councilperson Modesto asked that I look into that and do that, and I had my notes covered, so I apologize.
I'll make a motion to send those to the Board of Works.
Second.
And the other 2 that we're requesting.
Do you have the addresses?
We have poll numbers.
Because I had a call today.
We have poll numbers. I've already given to Sonia.
Okay.
And then Lake Station, Mary Anderson and I will speak tomorrow about 2 more on their side, because there's existing polls to keep the cost down. So we're going to work that through, and I'll send an email out and let you know what they say.
And, okay, just.
Yeah, what's the address,
The lady
Mark?
that gave me a call
Yeah.
about that, her house was robbed, was
Right.
broken into. Was that the lady, Susan?
Yeah, let me just say
Susan what?
address just to make sure.
Well, the address is 2975 County Line
Yeah,
Road.
yep, it's the same one.
I talked to her today.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Make sure. Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Anyone else in the public before I cut them off? So I get a little emotional, so I had to write something out for tonight if I speak off the cuff sometime. So here you go, if you allow me to speak for just a moment here. As you know, on March 2nd, I assumed the mayor's office in an extraordinary circumstance never experienced by Portage residents. I asked then for your ongoing approval, support, guidance, and especially your prayers. Tonight, I ask for the same for our incoming mayor and her team. My hope is that our new mayor will continue our progress and continue to be frank and candid going forward with the public. I pray that regardless of the political party, that the will of the people will always prevail. I hope that the politics and the division in our city and our nation will end and cooperation will win out. Elections are over. We must come together. I will quote again historian Edward Everts. Quote, "Coming together is a beginning. Keeping together is progress. And working together is a success." End quote. You may not always agree with some of the decisions I made, but I hope you can agree that I was willing to make tough decisions. Going forward, we will not always agree with the decisions of the new mayor and the council. But do not pass judgment until you know the entire story and all the facts. Please. This is a hard enough job without having folks not know the facts and they pass judgment beforehand. And I believe that is the healthiest way to deal with a decision. We pray for our city, all of our elected new elected leaders, our employees, and of course, our future. As I look back on the 8 months, I will continue to say this: our city is always in good hands because of you, the residents, and those that you've elected. I also will say this: all in all, for the 8 months, not too bad. Not too bad at all. I will see each of you soon. I'll guarantee you that. And please say prayers for our incoming leaders, and especially our mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.